For 6 years, one brother has lived across an ocean. For 6 years, the other has built a wall of silence so complete that palace insiders say the two men have barely spoken. But that ocean is about to disappear. Prince Harry, Meghan, and their 2 children are packing up their life in California and moving back to Britain. Not for a visit. Not for a funeral. For good, or at least for a long, open-ended stretch of time. Which means the man who has spent years avoiding his brother is about to find him living down the road. So what happens when the distance runs out? When he's on another continent is no longer an excuse. This is the story of 2 princes, one broken bond, and a homecoming that Buckingham Palace never saw coming. To understand why this moment matters so much, you have to understand what William and Harry used to be to each other. They weren't just brothers born 2 years apart into the same extraordinary, gilded, suffocating world. For a long stretch of their lives, they were each other's only real witnesses. 2 boys who watched their parents' marriage collapse in front of the entire country. 2 boys who, at ages 15 and 12, walked behind their mother's coffin as the whole world watched their faces for signs of grief. William has said publicly that the loss of Diana bonded the brothers in a way almost no one else could understand. For years after that, they really were close, pranking each other at family gatherings, serving together in royal engagements, standing as each other's best man. If you go back and look at old footage from the early 2010s, there's an ease between them that today feels almost unrecognizable. Something changed. And what changed it, more than anything else, was a woman named Meghan Markle, or rather, what her arrival exposed about 2 brothers who'd never really learned how to disagree with each other as adults. Today, William is the Prince of Wales, heir to the throne, a father of 3 building a public image around stability and duty. Harry is the Duke of Sussex, a father of 2, a memoirist, a mental health advocate, and, depending on which tabloid you read, either a man seeking peace or a man who burned the family down on his way out the door. Both versions have some truth in them. That's what makes this story so hard to simplify. Let's rewind to how we got here. In January 2020, Harry and Meghan stunned the monarchy with an Instagram announcement they were stepping back as senior working royals. They wanted financial independence. They wanted, in their words, room to build a more private life. The palace was reportedly blindsided, later issuing a second statement making clear that the terms were far from settled and that discussions were, in their phrasing, still at an early stage. The public called it Megxit. The tabloids had a field day. And behind palace walls, according to numerous royal biographers since, the fallout was brutal. William, as heir, was said to feel the weight of holding the institution together while his brother walked away from it. Then came the interviews. In March 2021, Harry and Meghan sat down with Oprah Winfrey in a conversation watched by tens of millions of people worldwide. Meghan described feeling so isolated within royal life that she'd had suicidal thoughts. She said a member of the family had raised concerns about the skin color of their unborn child, without naming who. Harry said his father had stopped taking his calls. The late Queen responded with a carefully worded statement, saying the family took the concerns seriously and would address them privately, while noting that recollections may vary. That phrase, recollections may vary, became almost a motto for everything that followed. Then, in January 2023, came the memoir that many royal watchers see as the true point of no return, Spare. In it, Harry described an argument with William in 2019 that turned physical, alleging his brother knocked him to the floor during a confrontation over Meghan. He wrote that William had called Meghan difficult, among other private conversations laid bare for the entire world to read. Harry has also written about calling William both his most beloved sibling and, painfully, his rival, proof, if nothing else, that the two feelings were never mutually exclusive for him. Buckingham Palace never formally disputed the specifics. It simply went quiet, the institution's oldest, most practiced form of damage control. Since then, the brothers have appeared in public together exactly twice. At Prince Philip's funeral in 2021, and at Queen Elizabeth's funeral in September 2022, when William, Harry, Kate, and Meghan briefly walked together to view floral tributes outside Windsor Castle. Royal watchers combed every frame of that video for signs of a thaw. Body language experts saw stiffness, distance, politeness, nothing more. Since then? Nothing. William skipped Harry's later visits to the UK. The brothers reportedly haven't spoken privately in years. Which brings us to now. In mid-August 2026, multiple outlets, CNN, NBC News, and The Washington Post among them, began reporting the same extraordinary story. Harry and Meghan were preparing to move back to Britain, ending 6 years of life in Montecito, California. According to CNN's reporting, the family is expected to settle into a private residence outside London, with their children, Archie and Lilibet, reportedly enrolled in British schools in time for the new term. King Charles, notably, was only informed of the decision on a Sunday, days before the news broke, and it apparently wasn't discussed during the family's visit to the UK the previous month. That detail alone tells you something about how this decision unfolded. Quickly, and largely on Harry and Meghan's own terms. To be clear about what this move is not, Harry and Meghan are not returning as working royals. There's no indication they'll take up official duties, live in a royal residence, or resume public functions on behalf of the Crown. Sources briefed on the matter say Charles has made clear their status as private, non-working members of the family won't change. What's changing is simply where they live, and how close that puts them to everyone they've spent 6 years keeping at arm's length. So why now? The most consistent explanation across multiple outlets points back to that July visit, a trip built around Harry's preparations for the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham. During that stay, Charles and Camilla reportedly hosted the family at Highgrove, the King's private country home in Gloucestershire, the first time the 77-year-old monarch had seen his grandchildren in around 4 years. Sources close to the family have said simply that the visit went well, without elaborating much further. There's a harder edge to the timing, too. King Charles has been undergoing treatment for cancer since it was discovered in 2024. Royal watchers, and Harry's own past comments, suggest an awareness that time with his father may be limited, and that whatever reconciliation is possible needs to happen now, not eventually. Notably absent from that July visit. Any meeting between the Sussexes and William, Kate, or their 3 children. The brothers, it seems, are still not in the same room. Which is exactly what makes William's position so complicated. According to multiple royal commentators, William has spent recent years quietly signaling that Harry's continued residence overseas is no small comfort to him. In fact, just weeks before the move became public, William made an offhand joke to soldiers during a royal engagement, asking if they got to see their families enough, then adding that some of them might not want to see you that much. Commentators immediately read it as a pointed jab at his brother, delivered with the kind of dry, deniable humor the royals have perfected over generations. That was Harry across an ocean. Now imagine Harry a 40-minute drive away. Royal correspondent Jenny Bond, speaking to the Mirror, put it plainly, William has appeared content to focus on his own family and his own work without engaging with the rift at all. But, as she noted, if Harry starts showing up in the UK regularly, visiting their father, being photographed at British events, it becomes far harder for William to simply look the other way. That's the crux of this entire story. Distance let William avoid a decision. Proximity won't. Behind the scenes, according to reporting from outlets like Radar Online, there's said to be real tension inside Kensington Palace over how to handle it, tension that reportedly touches not just William, but his wife, Kate, as well. One royal historian told NBC News that people close to William describe him as still carrying real anger toward his brother, even now. Whether that anger softens with Harry living nearby, or hardens into something more permanent, is the open question hanging over the entire family. There's also a wedding on the horizon that could force the issue sooner than anyone expected. Their cousin, Peter Phillips, son of Princess Anne, is engaged, and if both William and Harry are invited, as is expected, it could become their first shared public appearance since Elizabeth's funeral back in 2022. Meanwhile, King Charles is reportedly the one actively trying to build bridges. Multiple sources describe the monarch as eager to spend meaningful time with Archie and Lilibet, and increasingly focused on rebuilding his personal bond with Harry, separate from, and possibly ahead of, any reconciliation between the brothers themselves. One expert told the Associated Press that Charles, as the future head of the Church of England, may feel a kind of duty to model forgiveness publicly, even if privately the wound with Harry never fully closes for either him or William. There are even whispers, reported by insiders speaking to gossip columnist Rob Shutter, that Kate Middleton has quietly encouraged William toward peace, viewing the family rift as ultimately more costly to the monarchy's image than any private grievance is worth. And then there's the timeline pressure nobody in this story can control, Charles's health. Every report on this reconciliation effort circles back to the same undercurrent, that whatever bridge gets built, needs to be built while there's still time for him to see it. British newspapers didn't just report this story. They devoured it. Front pages across the country ran with the Sussexes' return the morning after the news broke, treating it with the kind of urgency usually reserved for elections or royal weddings. Part of that is simple appetite. The Windsor family drama has functioned, for years now, as a kind of real-life soap opera for the British public, one with recurring characters, long-simmering feuds, and just enough ambiguity that everyone gets to have an opinion. Commentators have openly described the family's dynamics in exactly those terms, a real-world drama that consistently grips the nation whether people want it to or not. Online, reaction has split predictably along old lines. Some see Harry and Meghan's return as an overdue step toward healing, proof that, whatever damage was done, family still matters more than pride. Others see it as strategic, a calculated repositioning time to Meghan's business ventures, the Sussexes' strained content deal with Netflix, and the couple's search for renewed relevance after several quiet years in America. That skepticism isn't coming from nowhere. Reports from Variety describe real turbulence inside the Sussexes' production partnership with Netflix, with one insider bluntly describing the mood around their deal as essentially finished. Other ventures, including a reported $20 million Spotify partnership that produced almost nothing, have similarly fizzled. Meghan's lifestyle brand, as ever, remains the one clear commercial success story, and is expected to continue regardless of where the family lives. Whether the UK move is driven purely by family, purely by strategy, or, more likely, some tangle of both, is something even seasoned royal watchers admit they can't fully untangle yet. What nobody disputes is the security question hanging over all of it. Harry lost his taxpayer-funded police protection when he stepped back from royal duties, and getting it reinstated has been a years-long point of contention and legal wrangling. As the family prepares to actually live in Britain full-time, that unresolved issue becomes far more urgent than it ever was during a short visit. So will William and Harry actually reconcile? Here's where the experts, notably, don't agree. Royal editor Emily Nash, speaking to Hello, has urged caution against reading too much optimism into this moment. Her assessment is that any real reunion will happen very much one step at a time, with Harry likely waiting until Archie and Lilibet feel properly settled before pushing for anything deeper with William. Her broader point is one worth sitting with: the damage runs deep enough that rebuilding trust isn't something that happens because two people now live in the same country. It happens, if it happens at all, slowly, and only if both sides actually want it. Other commentators are more hopeful, but for reasons that have little to do with brotherly affection. Royal expert Afua Hagen, speaking to the Royal Observer, has argued that as Charles ages, the institutional cost of an open, permanent rift becomes harder for William to justify, especially as he prepares for his own eventual reign. Her prediction isn't a Hollywood ending. She doesn't see the brothers skipping arm in arm through Buckingham Palace. What she describes is something more muted. A working peace, where both men support causes like the Invictus Games or the Earthshot Prize without hostility, even without warmth. That distinction matters. Nobody credible in this conversation is predicting the brothers become close again. What's being discussed is something smaller and, frankly, more realistic: public civility replacing public silence. There's also a generational angle worth noting. Several commentators have pointed out that the spotlight is gradually shifting toward the next generation of royal children. As William and Kate's children and Harry and Meghan's children grow up, the brothers may simply find themselves with less to compete over, less pressure to define themselves against each other, and more freedom to just coexist. And then there's the darkest, most human piece of this puzzle, for Charles's illness. Multiple reports suggest that even Buckingham Palace insiders acknowledge his condition adds real urgency to any reconciliation efforts. Nobody wants to be the family that failed to make peace while there was still time. That's not tabloid speculation, that's simply how families, royal or otherwise, tend to behave when a parent's mortality becomes impossible to ignore. As it stands right now, here's where things actually are not the speculation, but the confirmed facts. Harry and Meghan are moving back to the UK, with their relocation reportedly beginning within weeks, time to get Archie and Lilibet settled before the new British school term. They will not resume royal duties. Their exact residence hasn't been publicly confirmed, though reporting points to a private home outside London rather than any official royal property. King Charles has welcomed the move and is said to be looking forward to more regular time with his grandchildren. His relationship with Harry, while still described by insiders as fragile, has clearly been improving, evidenced by that July visit to Highgrove and earlier in-person meetings at Clarence House. William and Harry, meanwhile, have shown no public sign of a thaw. No meeting during the July visit. No joint statement. No indication that proximity has yet translated into contact. If anything, William's recent public comments, that mixed-bagged joke about families and distance, suggest a man still keeping his guard fully up. The security question remains unresolved. The wedding of their cousin Peter Phillips looms as a possible, if awkward, forced reunion. And Charles's health continues to quietly shape the urgency behind everything happening in this family right now. In other words, nothing is settled. Harry is coming home. Whether William is ready for that is, right now, entirely unclear. 6 years ago, an ocean gave Prince William an easy answer to a hard question. Now that ocean is gone. What's left is a much harder, much more human problem, one that has nothing to do with palaces or protocol and everything to do with two brothers who loved each other once, hurt each other badly, and now have to figure out how to exist in the same country again. Maybe even the same room. Their father is trying to build that bridge while he still can. Their wives are said to want peace, for very different reasons. Their children are growing up watching all of it. And somewhere in a quiet English town, in the next few weeks, Prince Harry is going to unpack boxes in a house that's finally close enough for his brother to visit, if his brother ever decides he wants to. That's the story now. Not a headline. Not a scandal. Just distance, finally running out. If you want to understand exactly how we got from two inseparable boys walking behind their mother's coffin to two grown men who haven't spoken in years, that's a whole story on its own. And we'll be covering it soon. For now, if you found this breakdown helpful, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss it when this story develops, because with Harry back on British soil, it's going to develop fast. And I want to know what you think. Do you believe William and Harry will actually reconcile now that Harry's home, or is this rift simply too deep to close? Drop your answer in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.